They told him not to do it. His own advisors, the people inside the White House, the people who read the same polling data, the same economic projections, the same electoral maps, they looked at the numbers and they said, focus on the economy, not Iran.
Right now, parents are pulling their children out of the rubble, their bodies out of the rubble. This dangerous and insane war against Iran not only violates international law and our Constitution and War Powers Act, but risks exploding into a vast war of mass proportion, taking the lives of many, including U.S. service people. It is yet again another war based on false information, and I can't help but think back to the Vietnam War. 62 years ago, the U.S. government fabricated an attack on the Tonkin Gulf, and that was used as a pretext to line up members of Congress who gave their consent to dispatch hundreds of thousands of American men to Vietnam. And over the next 8 years, more than 1 million Vietnamese lost their lives, were killed. 58,000 GIs died. It's not written in history books, but the American anti-war movement had a lot to do with ending that war. Woo! I truly believe that enough people in this country have learned the lessons of the Vietnam War, of the Iraq War, the war in Afghanistan, and the other unnecessary and illegal wars, that we can say loud and clear, we, the people of the United States, are here to tell the Trump administration, you may wage this war in our names, but not with our consent. Donald Trump is a sad, unhinged man. He is at war on many fronts. He is at war against democracy. He is at war against our constitutional rights, especially our First Amendment right, free speech and free assembly. He's at war against those of us who believe that the right to engage in dissent is what democracy is all about. He is at war against immigrant families. He is very definitely at war against the environment. This is a desperate, immoral act in the hopes that he can score a victory and be declared war president. Let regime change start at home. Thank you.
My Republican family voted against Kamala specifically because they said she was going to drag us into World War III. But look at what we've got going on right now. Not only is he tweeting out incendiary comments like, Tehran, you all need to evacuate immediately. I told you so. It's too late. Millions of lives are going to perish because Iran didn't sign the agreement that I took them out of the last time I was in office. And even last night, making comments, maybe I will, maybe I won't. Nobody knows what I'm going to do. That's literally an interview he just gave last night about something as serious as whether or not he's dragging our country into a war we did not start and do not belong in. He's taking it with such a flippant attitude, whether he's going to allow our country that already has our bombs dropping on Iran, whether we're going to go proactively participate in preemptively slaughtering tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands.
All right, folks, check this out. Following Donald Trump's bombing of Iran in the middle of the night last night, a bunch of MAGA Republicans, influencers, commentators, whatever, they are turning on Donald Trump. They are calling him out publicly for bombing Iran. He went from saying he's anti-war, anti-interventionist around the world to now, saying that Americans are going to die and that's just part of war and we're going to keep bombing Iran for the rest of the week. MAGA is not happy, like many Americans are. Nobody wants this war, but Donald Trump is pushing forward anyway. So you can see on your screen right now the person we're going to start with first, which is Marjorie Taylor Greene, but we're going to get into all of that and more. Before I do it with Marjorie Taylor Greene, who responded to a statement that Donald Trump made where he announced that Ayatollah Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, is now dead. He was killed in the strikes in Iran. He called him one of the most evil people in history. He added that this is not only justice for the people of Iran, but for all great Americans and those people from many countries throughout the world that have been killed or mutilated by Khamenei and his gang of bloodthirsty thugs. He adds at the end, though, that the heavy and pinpoint bombing, however, will continue uninterrupted throughout the week or as long as necessary to achieve our objective of peace throughout the world and the Middle East. So who knows how long that's going to take? I mean, I think Donald Trump will very likely keep this bombing going for quite some time. And Marjorie Taylor Greene responded to that by saying, "Great, Mr. President, good job. You're a billionaire, and the American people, not the Iranian people who voted for you, are not billionaires. As a matter of fact, many of them are flat out broke. An all-time high credit card debt, can't afford health insurance or car insurance for that matter, and most young people can't afford to buy a house or even their rent payment. Your generation, the baby boomers, your families were able to thrive on single incomes, and now that's practically impossible for the vast majority of American families, let alone imagine being a single mother."
In recent days, a storm has been building in American politics. What started as another foreign policy decision has now become a deep fracture inside the very movement that helped Trump return to power. The issue is war.
He didn't listen, and now we're here. The strikes began Saturday, February 28th. The trap that was set for weeks, the one nobody in mainstream media was willing to describe in full, has officially snapped shut. And in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what that means. The $300 billion calculation, the political math that has Republican strategists in a quiet panic, and the specific moment when every warning inside the White House became irrelevant. Stay with me, because what happened in the last 72 hours changes everything you think you know about this presidency. And if you're new here, hit the notification bell. Because in the hours ahead, this story is going to move fast. Let's go back, not 72 hours, let's go back further to February 21st, 4 days before the strikes. That's when Reuters published a story that should have stopped everything. According to Reuters, confirmed by multiple senior sources, Trump's own advisors were desperately urging him in private to focus on the economy, not Iran, not external critics, not the opposition, his own team, the people he chose, the people who wake up every morning and work to make his presidency succeed. Those people looked at what was coming and said, "This is a mistake we cannot afford." According to one Trump advisor quoted by Axios in that same window, the assessment was blunt. The boss, he said, was getting fed up. And the probability of kinetic action? 90% within the next few weeks. 90%. That's not an analyst guess from outside the room. That's someone inside, someone who sees Trump poll his own advisors daily, someone who watched the military buildup and understood what it was signaling. And yet, the warnings continued, and the countdown continued, and the deadline approached. The Reuters report laid it out plainly. Trump had ordered a massive buildup of forces and preparations for a potential multi-week air campaign against Iran. But he had not once, laid out in detail to the American public why he might be leading the United States into its most aggressive action against the Islamic Republic since the 1979 revolution. That phrase alone should have landed like a bomb. The most aggressive action since 1979. That's not a skirmish. That's not a targeted strike in the night. That's a war, a real one. And his advisors knew what a war costs. Let me show you exactly how the $300 billion calculation works. Because nobody in the mainstream media was adding the numbers together. Nobody was showing the complete trap. I'm going to do it now, piece by piece, so there's no ambiguity. Component 1, direct military costs. Israeli defense economists analyzing a comparable Iran operation estimated $2 to $4 billion for a multi-week campaign. But the American operation is larger. More assets, more sorties, more sustained. Pentagon sources told NPR the full force package was ready by mid-March. Maximum capability, maximum cost. Double the Israeli estimate, minimum. $50 billion just to begin. Aircraft fuel, munitions, personnel costs, base operations, logistics. That is your starting number, not the total, the starting point. Component 2, The oil price spike. Brent crude closed the Friday before the strikes at around $89 per barrel, already elevated by what traders were calling a war premium. Then the strikes began, and according to Bloomberg reporting, crude surged over 8% in a single Monday session. Wood Mackenzie, the energy consultancy, warned that if tanker traffic through the Strait of Hormuz doesn't resume, crude would likely settle above $100 a barrel. The Strait of Hormuz, the waterway through which approximately 1/5 of the world's seaborne oil and gas passes, and Iran controls access to it. James Knightley, chief international economist at ING, told Bloomberg that a rally to those levels would push nationwide American gasoline prices to around $4.50 per gallon, from $3 just days earlier. That alone adds 1.5 percentage points to headline inflation. At $130 per barrel, the level historical precedent from 1973 and 1979 suggests is possible, the calculation becomes staggering. The American economy consumes 20 million barrels of oil daily. $40 above baseline times 20 million times 365 days. That's $292 billion annually from the oil price increase alone. Not military spending, not reconstruction, not stock market losses, just oil. $50 billion in direct military costs. Add $292 billion in annual oil premium. You're already past $340 billion, and we haven't touched the markets yet. Component 3, the stock market crash. According to financial analysts, the Dow can drop 3,000 points when large-scale Middle East strikes begin. The S&P 500 loses up to 7%. The Nasdaq worse, 7% of total U.S. stock market capitalization, approximately $50 trillion, means $3.5 trillion of wealth destroyed. Not theoretical, not projected, destroyed. From retirement accounts, from pension funds, from 401k plans, from the savings of the middle-class voters Trump needs in November's midterms. Component 4, inflation's return. Consumer prices were already running elevated before this started. ING's Nightly projected that an oil spike to $130 adds 2 to 3 percentage points to the consumer price index. That means CPI reaching 6 to 7%. Gas prices above $6 per gallon. Heating costs doubling. Food prices jumping 20%. Mohammed El-Arian, Alliance's chief economic advisor, warned this week that prolonged disruption to oil and gas production in the Middle East could lead to higher inflation and slower economic growth worldwide.
According to reporters, inside the White House, there were voices adding caution. Advisors and political analysts, look at this. Look at the same numbers, polling data, economics, projection, and electoral map. Their message was simple: focus on economy, not Iran. But the warning went unheeded. Now, the United States finds itself facing a growing military confrontation with Iran, and the reaction from Trump's own supporters has been explosive. According to social media and public rally, members of MAGA movement are voicing anger and heartbreaking. For years, the slogans "Make America Great Again" carry a promise: American first. Many voters believe that meant no foreign wars and more focus on problem at home. But critics inside the movement say that promise is being broken. They point to a hardship economic reality many Americans are facing today. Some estimated claim that 72% of Americans struggle to avoid health insurance. Around 58% cannot comfortably avoid car insurance, and nearly 67% of households are living paycheck to paycheck. At the same time, the national debt has climbed roughly to 40 trillion US dollars, raising fear about the long-term economic future of the country. For many supporters, this number represents a painful contradiction. Instead of focusing on domestic recovery, they believe the country is once again being drawn into another overseas conflict. The cost of war is not just economics. Report of American troops dying is escalating. Conflict have shaken the base that once stood firm behind the president. Some MAGA supporters are now speaking out publicly, accusing the administration of ignoring the voters who helped him to power. They said the movement stood for American first, not endless war. What makes this movement so significant is that the critique is not coming from political opponents. It is coming from inside the movement itself. Political analysts say that MAGA coalition may be entering its most serious internal conflict since the movement began nearly a decade ago. When a political base begins to fraction publicly, the consequence can be unpredicted. The question now is whether this movement becomes a temporary disagreement or the beginning of deeper political division. Meanwhile, the large human question looms over everything. How many lives will be lost in this if this conflict continues? For families of soldiers and civilians alike, the question is more than political. It is deeply personal. And as tension rises, millions of Americans are asking the same thing. Was this the future we voted for? Or has the promise of American first take a different path entirely? Only time will tell. Clips used in this video are credited to the original Stitch video creator, whose footage helped highlight the public reaction to the developing story. If you believe in honest conversation about global events, subscribe to True Verdict. Like this video and share it with others. And most importantly, leave your thoughts in the comment section. Do you think this war will divide MAGA movement forever? Or will the coalition come back together? Your voice matters. Join the conversation.